for joining me on the Overcomer Show. My guest today is a returning guest, Dr. Emmet Thompson II. Tom, welcome back.
Thank you, Sherri. It's great to be back with you.
Tom kicked his way into the record books. At age 61, he's the oldest football player in NCAA history and the oldest NCAA football player to score a point after touchdown. Thompson's jersey hangs on display in the College Football Hall of Fame. He has a master's degree in kinesiology and organizational leadership, strategic leadership, and teaching. He's co-authored numerous articles in academic journals. Tom was also a lecturer, motivational speaker, and author. And Tom and his wife Teresa own a fitness management firm in Dallas-Fort Worth area. They reside in Coppell, Texas. Tom released the second edition of his book, Kickstart, a story of overcoming life's obstacles to kickstart your future. Tom's newest book, Get a Kick Out of Life, Expect the Best of Your Body, Mind, and Soul at Any Age. Tom, your previous book, Kickstart, was an inspirational and motivational autobiography. What would you say is the message in your new book, Get a Kick Out of Life, Expect the Best of Your Body, Mind, and Soul at Any Age?
Well, Sherri, I think the bullet points would be that there is no expiration date on our lives in terms of when we can stop working on those three dimensions. I mean, we can always work on enhancing our physical fitness. We can always work on developing our mental capacities, and certainly we can continue to develop a deeper walk with the Lord. So it's really a matter of being able to turn down the white noise that we have in life, of focusing on the three areas that make up who we are, which is our body, mind, and soul. And I found that if you are able to just focus on a few things, you're a lot better positioned to accomplish more, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. So when you're talking about focus, let's take a step further and talk about goals. How likely are people able to achieve what they want in life or have a fulfilled life without goals?
Well, goals are something that we can either intellectually assent to, or we will just naturally drift to. And what I mean by that is, unless, let's just say you decided to get in your car and go for a drive. Well, maybe that's your goal, is just to go out and take in the view and scenery and whatnot, maybe stop and have lunch and just make it an experience. Or maybe you want to go somewhere. And the thing that I found is that many people just want to let the car take them wherever they think they should go. And they really haven't put a lot of themselves into identifying and how to actually reach their goals. And the thing that has worked for me has been that we always hear the term bucket list, and what that makes me think about, it's something that a person wants to do for themselves. Well, I like to think of goals in terms of quality of life, and those kind of goals to me, they include more than just me. They include all the people that would be accompanying me, let's say, on that journey to accomplish that goal. And another thing about goals that I found is quite often we think of just identifying the goal and therefore just because it seems like a worthy goal to us that it's worth the effort. And what I've discovered is that unless a goal is tied to a core value, the only thing you'll have at the end of that journey is a sense of achievement rather than having the opportunity to have a long-term sense of fulfillment. And naturally, the idea of doing things is that you're much more fulfilled. I know when I was younger, there were a lot of things that I accomplished that I thought once I did, I would, I'd be more fulfilled. Well, actually, I wasn't. I just, as I said, I had a sense of achievement, and that doesn't necessarily last very long.
Can you give us an example of a goal that doesn't coincide with our core values? Perhaps someone who loses weight and reaches their goal but gains all their weight back.
Right. Well, there's also some variables that allow for that to happen. Oftentimes, it's the method we use to lose the weight that actually causes the weight gain. And a lot of, at least the way the American culture is, it's all about how we look. And frankly, that's not how it should be. It should actually be, again, about our quality of life. The lie is you can go into a gym and work out and look like you did when you were in your 20s. Well, I've owned fitness centers, and I could live there, and I would never look like I did when I was in my 20s, working out 24/7. But what we can accomplish and what is real is we can look, act, feel, and function 10 years younger than our chronological age. So if you're 60, you'll function as though you're 50. If you're 50, you'll function as though you're 40. If you're 80, you'll function as though you're 70. I mean, and that's real. That's tangible. Well, I get back to when I think about physical fitness, and I don't know if you and I talked about this the last time, but there's a study that I'm looking to do sometime in the near future where we take a fit 33-year-old male and an unfit 33-year-old male. We are able to quantify how far Jesus walked carrying the cross, and we also are able to quantify how much blood he lost when he was scourged. And what the hypothesis of this study is, if you'll recall, he walked a certain distance carrying that cross before someone had to come and help him. And what I think about is that unless we're physically fit, we won't reach the purpose God has for our life. In other words, with this study, the hypothesis is the fit individual will go that distance carrying that weight that Jesus did, and the unfit person will not get to that point. And so that's a whole different way of looking at physical fitness compared to how we're told to look at it from our culture.
I would agree. I think we tend to look more at how people are going to view us and how we want them to see us in our best light than at fitness as a means to having a fulfilled life and having a quality of life that God intended. And then we're going to fall short and not be in the healthiest state in our bodies and minds that we need to be.
Right, and I don't think we discussed this when we visited last, but in one of my previous books, we brought out that the original Greek word for fit is useful, and it has nothing to do with how we look. It's that we're physically useful or spiritually useful. So it's how we're useful to ourselves and to mankind is what physical fitness really is about, in my view. And again, if you are physically fit, you have the opportunity to fulfill God's purpose that he has for your life. I want you to know that Jesus was fit. He walked 53 miles a week, so he was aerobically healthy, and he was a carpenter, and so he was active, and he couldn't have stayed up on that cross like he did if he wasn't in shape. And people, I think people don't want to conflate the two things. I think they want to see that they're separate. And, I've just felt that if God's going to come to us as man, we need to understand what that's about from a physical point of view, not just from a spiritual point of view.
Really, Tom, would you say that there is going to have to be a change in our belief system in order to see our goals as a way to have the quality of life we want to have? And we're going to have to see things in a different perspective. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. And I would also like to add that there's only two variables that allow for the opportunity for long-term behavioral change. And you can wish to do something, pray to do something, hope to do something, go out and try to do something, but for there to be the opportunity for it to be a long-term change, and I'll ask this question, Sherri, how many people do you know that want to change their lives?
I'd say absolutely everybody.
Pretty much. But you know what? Many of them are not willing to change how they think. And that's the first thing you have to do. You have to change how you think about something. That's number one. And then number two, you have to come along and submit your will to that new way of thinking. And that all that does is give you a chance to have a long-term behavioral change. It doesn't guarantee it, but that's life. I mean, we can just do so much. And I would say this, and I don't know that we were going to necessarily talk about this, but the book does say things about the mind. And what I would suggest we even think about is the closest thing that we have as humans to God is our brain. You know, when he says in Jeremiah, I know the plans I have for you, and it's about thinking. And we get to do that too.
So there's people, I'm sure, that don't set goals because maybe they're not sure or they're afraid they will fail. I know, Tom, on your journey of life, you've experienced failure along the way to your unprecedented accomplishments. What would you want to say to people that are afraid to try because they're afraid to fail?
Well, I would say, let's look at Paul. Paul gloried in his weakness. And God uses, we can partner with God using failure to help us become an overcomer. And I mean, that's really a lot of what our walk is all about, is the things that God helps us overcome. And if we haven't experienced failure, we're not going to have any notion of what winning is all about. And realizing, too, that failure is not an outcome, it's a design variable. God uses the failures in our lives to define really who we are and how much we need Him.
Why do you think the baby boom generation is more well-educated, healthier, and motivated more than any previous generation in American history?
I think a lot of that has come from the fact that we have been given more information. And it also has been due to the fact that as we grew up, we were sort of in the middle of all the health and fitness trends. Your audience may be familiar with Dr. Kenneth Cooper, and he wrote a book back in the 60s called Aerobics, and he is considered the father of aerobics. And many, many people went from not running to running because of Dr. Cooper. And I really just think we were there when all these trends were beginning to happen. And the other thing was, we also found out that we feel better. And so as we age, we obviously want to try to feel as good as we can. Now, the younger generations anyway, they don't really feel like they have to exercise. And some of that has been brought on by the fact that they either see themselves as athletic or not. And as far as the generations before us, the roles were pretty much defined back then between male and female, and you just had, people being involved in sports, not necessarily in activities. And I think that's been part of the change too. I think a lot of it has to do with the cultures that we've existed in. As our generations move forward, we haven't lost some of that.
You touched on this previously, but just for the sake of emphasis, can you explain again the difference between a bucket list and goals?
Sure. Well, as I did say before, when we hear or think of bucket list goals, it has to do with the individual wanting to do something before they pass away. And it usually is something that's selfish in its nature. And if you pull it out more and look at how can I go help a group that I would be a part of, or how can I go help other people and tie that into the goal, it loses its bucket stuff. It gets to where a lot more people are being involved in your journey, and at the same time, you're involving yourself in their journeys. I mean, like if all I wanted to do was kick a football, and then be done with it, I wouldn't be talking to you today. I mean, there's people that I met along the way that actually helped me accomplish the goal. Then there have been people that have helped me write books, and then now I'm teaching. I'm a professor at the college that I kicked the football at, and I mean, there's so many other things that have happened past that one event, and I guess that's what I'm getting at is the difference. If you have a bucket list goal, after you've accomplished it, it's over. As opposed to a quality of life goal, your life gets better as you keep reaping the fruit of that event.
So to me, it almost sounds like if you have a goal, you can look at the finish line of this goal that I have, and it is going to allow me to impact more people for the kingdom of God. Say, for instance, somebody that doesn't have their degree, they might think about, well, there's a lot of work involved, a lot of homework, a lot of studying. Whereas if they looked at the finish line, like once they get the degree, it may open more doors for them to help other people. So it's a different mindset. And of course, there is a little bit of discipline and sacrifice in some of these things.
That's true. And I think you've hit it, right square in the middle. I mean, that's really why we're all here, is to help other people. And it's our ability to be teachable as we age and to still look out and find out how can we help. Now, we're not going to be functioning at the same level we did when we were in our 20s and 30s, maybe even for some our 40s and 50s. But that doesn't matter. We still can have an impact if we are teachable and are always looking to figure out how to help other people. I've said this for many years, and I've seen it come to pass. If we're more concerned about what we're giving than what we're getting, we end up with far much more than we ever could have gotten on our own.
Tom, you've accomplished success and notoriety. Would you give some tips for success to two different groups of people? Group one, those people that don't know what they want and they're challenged to set goals. And group two, those that have a vision and have started toward that goal, but they're not sure that they will be successful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, the first group, the not knowing part, they've just got to, first of all, embrace the fact that it's a journey of discovery. It's not going from point A to point B and, aha, I've got it. It's finding out, frankly, what happened to me was when I realized why God created me, that is what sort of lit the fuse for everything else. And the example, if you don't mind, I'll use me here. I realized that I was to encourage the body of Christ about physical fitness. And from there, all these other things have happened. And I didn't do anything as far as, thinking I had to map anything out, because I knew that he was going to have to lead me because I didn't have a clue. I've been in the commercial real estate business for 20 years. I was in my 40s when all of a sudden this came to me. And there's no way that I could have just said, okay, well, I'll just jump off this and get on that. I literally had to trust God that he was going to, take me wherever he would. And I think that's a lot of it, is our willingness to trust God. And if we hear something in our spirit that we feel like he's telling us, we just need to rest in that. And I can assure you that when I, in my late 50s, got the unction, if you will, that God wanted me to go to college and kick a football, that I really felt that if I shared that with too many people, I might have to explain myself to a few doctors. And it's just that sort of a thing, and it's moment to moment. The thing I would say, Sherri, is that God doesn't give us a whole bunch of light to see where he's going to take us. And I wondered about that for years. Why? This is what I discovered. He gives us just enough light to take the next step, because if we saw what was out there, it would scare us to death and we wouldn't go that way. Satan doesn't want us to go where God wants us to go. And he's going to have all that stuff there to try to come at us whenever we least expect it. And if we saw that that was there, we'd say, you know what, I don't think I want to go that way. And we'd miss God. So it needs to be that we're comfortable in just enough light to take the next step, and just enough wisdom to know we're just supposed to stay here until we get more light.
Tell us about some of your upcoming events, projects, or goals.
Well, right now I'm in the midst of football season. So what that means is I coach 3 days a week and I teach 2 days a week at Austin College. And so I really only have Mondays and Fridays that I can play catch up. And so everything's sort of geared toward the fall is for football and the spring is to work on projects. My next project is I'm doing another book, and it's called The Life Coach. And it takes everything that we've kind of gotten from Get a Kick Out of Life, and then it narrows it a little bit more. I'm writing this book with the football coach that I had at Austin College. In fact, he wrote the foreword to Get a Kick Out of Life. Now, he's got an incredible story, and what I witnessed while being with him was remarkable. I first talked to him in December of 2007, and just to get acquainted with him, and I found out that his oldest daughter had gotten married. Well, after I ended up at Austin College, I then found out later that she'd been diagnosed with brain cancer. Now, I watched this coach show up every single day to coach, and he coached his heart out. And then he would go back to Dallas, which is about 65 miles from where Austin College is, and be at his daughter's bedside. And he did that for the whole entire year. Well, in February of 2009, we had a football player collapse and die while playing basketball. And he was contacted. He drove up to Sherman, and at 8 o'clock at night, we had a team meeting, and it was the most powerful message I have ever heard in my life about the goodness of God. He got back in his truck, drove back to his daughter, and sadly, in June, she passed away. But he and I are going to write a book, basically, that's going to help people understand how to handle the good, bad, and ugly of life, and keep things in balance, and it's all on the foundation of God and his goodness. It's really going to be a remarkable book. So that's my next project, and I'm looking forward to working with him on that.
Tom, where can people connect with you, invite you to speak at their events, or buy your books?
Well, we have a website. It's 91kick.com. And it has all answers to all those questions there. Of course, all the books are on Amazon and in local bookstores. But if they go to 91 Kick, they're going to be directed to those places. as well. And then also lets people contact me for speaking engagements and things like that.
Dr. Tom Thompson, thank you for coming back again and joining us on The Overcomers. Much success to you with your new book, Get a Kick Out of Life, Expect the Best of Your Body, Mind, and Soul at Any Age. And take a look at Tom's website, 91kick.com. God bless you, Tom, and your ministry and helping others stay physically fit and to not let their age be an inhibitor and to believe that everyone can enjoy success in life. Thank you.
Sherri, thank you so much. It was a privilege to be asked back, and I always enjoy talking with you and look forward to doing that again.